I'm pleased to be given this opportunity, finally, to present this motion for debate and hopefully support by all members of the House, since it is of the view of thousands in the agriculture sector that this motion, will go a far way towards ensuring the viability of not only the rice sector, but also support for livestock and other crops. Sir, I've been here for quite a while, and I must admit that I'm a bit apprehensive this afternoon, not simply because it's the first time I'm moving a motion, but a bit of apprehension, as my mother would say, like it's a feeling as if you have your heart in your hand. And sir, I say that because I don't know if the question will be put on this motion prematurely. Hence my apprehension. And I sincerely hope that we'll be able to debate fully this motion, because it's a matter of bread and butter for thousands in the farming community. And they have made their dissatisfaction known on numerous occasions in the countryside and in Georgetown, in front of the Ministry of Agriculture, at Anvawak, at Hope Estate, as it relates to the likely impact these increases will have on their future. And sir, the force whereas clause states clearly that our economy is in no insignificant way based on contributions of the agriculture sector. And I want to quote the Honorable Minister of Finance, or in his budget presentation, Budget 2015, where on page 23 he said, and I quote, sir, "Mr. Speaker, agriculture accounts for approximately 25% of our GDP and provides more than 33% of direct employment, both rural and urban." And so I think all of us must be concerned about the situation in rural communities, because it is my humble view that if rural communities do not enjoy comfortable lives, comfortable livelihoods, you will have, like we have seen in other countries, migration out of the country, migration to urban centers. And this can cause additional problems, additional strain in terms of internal movements on the urban centers. And we have to do our best, sir, to make lives comfortable for our rural people, to provide for them that which is enjoyed and taken for granted by others in urban centers. And if we provide for them in the way of infrastructural support that enables them to make a life, enables them to live comfortably whilst contributing to the development of our country, then we would have achieved something. And I think the Honorable Minister of Finance acknowledges how important it is for us to provide for rural communities the necessary infrastructure for them to be meaningfully engaged and for them to make meaningful contributions towards our economy and towards our overall welfare. And so in 2015, when in particular the rice sector started to face difficulties in the latter part of 2015, we sounded a warning and we made some recommendations to the government to arrest the decline in rice in particular, and made a number of recommendations for the consideration, and it was hopeful then, the implementation by the government to address these concerns. We brought this motion so that all of us in this National Assembly and outside of it, the extended cabinet and all of that, could debate on this matter and hopefully revoke and reverse the increases proposed by the Minister of Agriculture, because it is unpopular. It is very much unpopular on the ground in the farming communities across the divide, and it does not make economic sense. So at this point in time, increase taxation on a sector that is going through hard times, when you yourselves are recognize that the sector is going through difficult times.
The MMA is currently engaged in the construction of new infrastructural works in phase 2, that's Maconia-Barry, which will facilitate the development of another 15,000 acres of land. Overall, the MMA ADA at present supports nearly half of the national rice production, about 30–35% of all livestock, mostly cattle production, and 10–15% of national sugar production. More particularly, the authority is responsible for the operation and maintenance of 784 miles of drainage and irrigation canals, 381 structures, including cokers, sluices, bridges, aqueducts, and regulators, and 4 pump stations. A total area of 169,878 acres are beneficially occupied for agricultural purposes. Mr. Speaker, for more than a decade, farmers were required to pay $2,500 per acre annually. That is 208 Guyana dollars a month, notwithstanding the increasing cost of materials and supplies in the provision of drainage and irrigation services. Despite such a low cost of land and drainage and irrigation services provided by the state, some sections of farmers were still not keeping their end of the agreement by paying their lease rates as stipulated by the Mahika-Maikoni and the Barry Agricultural Development Act. As such, this hampered the authority from executing planned works outlined in its work program, with the most important being the completion of MMA phases 2 and 3. In this year's budget, the MMA received $357 million from central government. As the authority, in view of the existing DNI rates and land rent charges, is unable to meet its operating costs. The MMA ADA, as a statutory agency under the aegis of the Ministry of Agriculture, is required to provide drainage and irrigation services within the MMA ADA area, as laid out in the Authorities Act. The areas which fall in MMA purview, as mentioned, is the Barry Berbice, the Barry Maikoni, and Mahika-Maikoni. The provision of these DNI services are financed from charges levied on the users of the services. No budgetary appropriations are received for DNI services in these blocks. Over the years, MMA ADA has faced serious challenges in meeting the expenditure required for fuel and spares for machinery and increases in salaries, wages of the authority's workers. By cabinet decision in 2007, the authority assumed responsibility for the Maikoni-Mahika block, with instructions for the financing responsibilities to be transferred from the Regional Democratic Council of Region 5. Over the past 9 years, extensive infrastructure and other works have been undertaken in the block to the extent that the cultivated area has doubled. Consequently, the requirement for DNI services have increased, and the Region 5 appropriations are inadequate to meet the cost of providing these services. The new DNI charges for land in the Barry-Berbice area, which receive from the authority flood control, primary drainage and irrigation, secondary drainage and irrigation, and primary and secondary access services range from a high of $8,000 per annum, which is $666 Guyana dollars per month, to $1,000 per annum, which is 83 Guyana dollars per acre per month, based on the location. Land in the Myconia Barry block, which received flood control, dual-purpose DNI services, and primary and secondary access services, range between $7,000 annually, that is $583 per month per acre, and $2,500 per annum, that is 208 Guyana dollars per month, based on location. Land in the Myconia area, which received from the authority flood control dual-purpose DNI and primary and secondary access services, attract DNI charges of $5,000 per annum, which is 416 Guyana dollars per month. Surely, Mr. Speaker, these charges cannot be considered onerous. Indeed, some might consider such monthly charges for 1 acre of land, the equivalent of 8 full house lots or 16 half lots, as obtained in our capital city of Georgetown, as ridiculously low. Let us now, Mr. Speaker, consider the land rental charges. In 1998, land rental charges were fixed at $1,000 per annum, that is $83 per month per acre. Shortly thereafter, it was argued at the level of the MMA board that the rental for land for pasturage should be reduced. The board agreed to reduce the land rental charges for pasture to $200 per acre per annum, that is 17 Guyana dollars per month. These charges have remained in place for 18 years. The Rice Farmer Security of Tenure Act, Chapter 6902, is intituled an act to provide better security of tenure for tenant rice farmers, to limit the rent provided for the letting of rice lands, and for matters connected with matters aforesaid. The guidelines for basic rental per acre per annum are set out in the first schedule of the Act and expressed in bags. Units are in 150-pound bags of paddy, based on approximately 5% of the quantity of paddy produced in 1 2-crop year. Applying the guidelines set out in Chapter 6902 of the laws of Guyana to determine the basic rental of rice lands in the MMA area require that, based on the national average of 35 bags per acre per crop, 70 bags per annum, 5% of yield will attract a charge of 3.5 bags of paddy per acre per year. As the value of 1 bag of paddy ranges between $2,000 and $3,000 per bag, and conservatively using the lowest rate of $2,000, a rental of $7,000 per annum, or 583 Guyana dollars per acre per month, can legally and appropriately be applied. In view of the fact that the MMA board had previously determined that the rental for pasturage should be 20% of that of rice, the new rates for pasture land in the MMA area has been determined at $1,400 per acre per annum, that is 117 Guyana dollars per acre per month. Again, Mr. Speaker, I humbly submit that by no stretch of the imagination and under no set of circumstances can these charges be considered exorbitant or present a burden on stakeholders. In summary, Mr. Speaker, the total of DNI and land rental charges per acre in the MMA area range from $15,000 per annum, that is $1,250 per acre per month, to $12,000 per annum, that is $1,000 per acre per month for rice land, and between $9,400 per acre, that is $780 per acre per month, and $6,400 per annum, that is $580 per month for pasturage.
Mr. Speaker, with your leave, I rise not only to attempt to answer the question in the motion notice paper number 84, M68 of Decision 13, published on the 18th of January 2017 in the name of MP Dharamkumar Seeraj, but to give a sense of reasoning and clarity to the increase in land rent and other charges to farmers in the MMA ADA scheme. Mr. Speaker, the honorable members of the opposition would have regaled us with a chorus of percentages. Much quality, but little substance. Very low on quality of reasoning, great repetition, and a demonstration of big ABC mathematics. Everyone understands percentage, but percentage without reasoning and context is backward thinking, and permit me, Mr. Speaker, is not forward thinking. Mr. Speaker, our government is just and reasonable with the increase proposed. The two speakers of the opposition that presented so far, the mover of the motion hardly ever supported this very motion, and MP Damon simply regaled us with lots of things about tax and other issues. But sir, I must admire the opposition honesty in not saying to us that this critical and useful scheme was the creation of a government at another time when the good life was here for us. Mr. Speaker, I was at high school, Maikoni Secondary to be exact, when this project started in 1977. And before I completed my secondary education, this drainage and irrigation masterpiece was the talk of Region 5, one of the major agricultural belts in this our beloved country. Mr. Speaker, rice swamp seed, as it is called, is no strange thing to me. I grew up in Burma, Maikoni, and I understand the challenges and success of the rice industry, and say unreservedly that I support the rice industry and agriculture in general, for many of the farmers are my friends, schoolmates, and family. Sir, I know of the dust of rice fields and the cold, chilly nights of waterlogged fields. Sir, my memory informed me that the MMA project was intended to be 3 phases, and the first would have been completed. And I so much so support the rice farmers if they should ask, and this government will deliver, the completion, as Minister of Agriculture said, of all 3 phases. And thus I ask the farmers to understand the dollar value increase, this small dollar value increase that appeared to be a large percentage value increase, is reasonable and just at this time.
I can recall, Mr. Speaker, the days when farmers had to depend on rainfall and pumping of water into the rice lands just to receive 1 crop yearly. The People's National Congress administration under Forbes Burnham, then president, then brought relief to farmers by introducing the MMA water control project to facilitate agricultural development to the landline between Mahaika and the Borbis River on the northeastern Atlantic seacoast of Guyana. Mr. Speaker, this project was divided into 3 phases, hence the Abari Borbis, the Maikoni Abari, and the Mahaika Maikoni areas. In the mid-1980s, phase 1, Abari Borbis, construction works were completed to facilitate rice farming, livestock rearing, cash crop, and also sugar cultivation. As such, it was deemed the largest agricultural region in the country. Mr. Speaker, the last government took over a perfect MMA system on a platter, Mr. Speaker. But over the years, they were in office, they reduced the charges inherited. Consequently, the system failed to maintain itself, thus making the authority face serious challenges annually in meeting expenditures to provide various services to farmers. Sir, the low charges remain the same until the previous government demitted office. Despite there were high costs for fuel, spares, for machinery, and increase for salaries for MMA staff over the years. I believe MMA staff were receiving the lowest salary ever. This action placed the authority in a serious crisis the position to fulfill its statutory obligation. The obligation of providing farmers with the quality service they were accustomed to, Mr. Speaker. The previous government took the authority to its lowest because of the very low payments. And we are saying that must not remain the same. Sir, in the MMA scheme, there is an urgent need for plenty of work to be done. Payments of charges for farmers are very poor because the facility, the service is not there. So nobody over the years want to pay this for what they are receiving. Thus, the situation has put the authority in a very difficult financial position, and that is the reason why the MMA is trying now to do an expansion in their revenue base. Mr. Speaker, presently, the authority is finding it difficult to weed and clean canals, drains, the silting of overflow channels, repairing structures, cokers, sluices, bridges, culverts, grading of access dams, and maintaining the inlets and outlets, and I can go on and on. As such, the farmers receiving the service because of the rundown areas I made mention of early. Mr. Speaker, who will want to pay for those kind of service? Anybody in this house can tell me that. There is a pump station and a sea sluice. It is a combination where the sluice has to be closed during the high tide. As for the pumps, 4 of them, Mr. Speaker, they were normally turned on to drain the farmlands for the residential communities. Let them say to this house what they did with those pumps. Presently, sir, during the rainy seasons, areas such as number 28, number 30, among others, are underwater, Mr. Speaker. Those are the basin areas in the region. And because of the deplorable state in which they left the authority, that is why the farmers are suffering, and that is why they owe the MMA that Honorable Seeraj spoke about. Comrades even protested the last rainfall we had in the region. They blocked road. Why, Mr. Speaker? Because of what we inherited. And we are now trying to fix the system. Give us our space to fix the system. At this point, I must say, MMA had systems in place to police the various areas. They had what you call rangers appointed, so that rice or cattle farmers were prevented from abusing the system. I stood over there and I spoke about all these things, Mr. Speaker. Nobody listened. Now you are in the seat over there. You are now seeing and you are now hearing. Mr. Speaker, the 4-wheel tractors, animals were all prevented from traversing, be it rain or shine, in those days. Now is lawlessness. Anybody going up, down, in, out. Mr. Speaker, we have to get money to repair those damages.
When I stand, and my brother, the Honorable Member Seeraj, and the Honorable Member Zulfikar Mustafa stand and speak to this motion, sir, we have no private, pecuniary, or vested interest in this motion. We are simply conveying the concerns, the sentiments, the protestation, the anguish, and the sufferings of the rice farmers of our country. And if the government wishes to treat it in a flippant manner, to dismiss it summarily, that is a matter for the government. The rice farmers are viewing what is going on. And at some point in time, sir, the rice farmers will speak. They will speak, sir. The Honorable Member, Mr. Felix, and someone else seem to make the issue as to who started the MMA a contentious one. Sir, the MMA, the land for the MMA, the original piece of land, 750,000 hectares of land was identified and demarcated by Premier Chedi Jagan. And that is an undisputed fact.
Dispute that.
Surveyed by a British surveyor by the name of Hutchinson. So it is the MMA is a product. It is a baby born out of the cradle and bosom of the People's Progressive Party. It is true that the Fobbs-Burnham government brought it into being as a corporate entity. And if Mr. Felix does his research, he will see that Dr. Jagan, right in this house, extended critical support to the PNC government to get IDB funding to start the MMA.
My remit really is to show justification that what the MMA ADA has done to increase a bit the charges, the land charges and also for rent, is something that has been authorized by law. We don't do nothing outside of the law, Mr. Speaker. And so I need to show you, we need to show you, even that not outside of the law. Yeah. So, Mr. Speaker, that would be an unlawful apology. So, Mr. Speaker, the MMA, as my honorable friend and the honorable member, Mr. Felix, indicated earlier, is a corporate body established on an act, etc. But, sir, any increase of rates for services provided by the authority must be governed by legislation. And might I respectfully refer you, sir, to the honorable members to sections 25 to 32 of the MMA ADA Authority Act, Chapter 701, which makes provision for financial procedures of the authority. The Act provides that state lands within the area held under a lease, license, or permission are in the possession or occupation of any person shall be liable and subject to charges for drainage and irrigation services, as well as rent charges. These provisions, Mr. Speaker, are in keeping with the Public Corporation Act, Chapter 1905, which authorizes the public corporation to charge fees for any service rendered by it. Therefore, the MMA Authority has been authorized to charge fees for its drainage and irrigation services provided to the area for proprietors and lessees. In addition, Section 28 of the Act also authorizes the authority to fix different charges for drainage and irrigation services in different farming patterns. In fixing these charges, the Act regulates the authority it specifies that the authority must act, Cornell, in accordance with the procedures to recover rates under the Municipal and District Council Act, Chapter 2801. Similarly, Section 32 of the Public Corporations Act authorizes the minister to make regulations regarding the procedures relating to levy and collection of such fees. As such, even though the Acts contemplated that an increase in rates might be necessary, there is an established procedure to ensure there is not an arbitrary increase in rates and land rental fees. And I've been contending that these fees, the increases, were not arbitrary. The legislation therefore acts as a method of monitoring and regulating. This has been said before. Similarly, the computation for the increase is not capricious. The Act has been identified. It has identified the factors the authority is required to consider when increasing the rates. And if you listen carefully, you will find that these include the operational costs, the profitability, and any other relevant factors such as interest, depreciation, and certain charges associated with capital costs. The authority is also authorized to consider any other relevant factors. It is legally understood that this will be done to arrive at a reasonable and feasible amount.